Welcome to the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast, presented by the Beef Cattle Research Council. The most popular content from beefresearch.ca, available on the go. Before we get into this week's episode, a quick message from the BCRC.
Economics of preg checking. Preg checking can save on winter feed costs by identifying open cows early, but it isn't always the most economical choice. In some cases, the higher prices and added weight in the spring can more than cover the costs of winter feeding. To help producers decide what's best for their operation, the Economics of Pregnancy Testing Beef Cattle model calculates the gain or loss per head when preg checking and culling open cows in the fall versus overwintering and selling them in the spring. You'll find a link to the model in the show notes.
Have you ever wondered where your money goes during the winter feeding period? Feed costs are easy to spot, but what about the other expenses quietly chipping away at your bottom line? This is where yardage comes in. It is a crucial part of managing winter feeding costs in cow-calf operations. What is yardage? Yardage refers to the overhead and non-feed costs incurred while maintaining cattle during the winter feeding period. These costs include day-to-day expenses such as labor, equipment and building maintenance, fuel, utilities, manure handling, and other general expenses like farm taxes and accounting fees. They also include non-cash costs such as machinery and facility depreciation, which represent the gradual loss of value in assets over time. Yardage is typically expressed on a per head per day basis. Why does yardage matter? Yardage may not grab attention like feed costs, but it significantly impacts profitability. These costs, especially non-cash costs like depreciation, often remain unnoticed but can erode profitability over time. For example, underestimating yardage may lead producers to assume their operation is more efficient than it truly is. Ignoring yardage also makes it difficult to identify areas where costs can be optimized. For example, the exclusion of machinery maintenance and repair costs may make the cow-calf enterprise look more profitable than it is. Using yardage insights for better decision-making. Yardage is more than just a line on a spreadsheet. It's a key component to understanding and controlling costs and can be a powerful tool for improving financial outcomes. Here are some examples. 1. Pinpoint cost drivers. Identify the most significant contributors to yardage and pinpoint opportunities for savings. 2. Evaluate resource utilization. Determine if equipment and facilities are underutilized or can be used for other farm tasks. 3. Explore alternatives. Yardage insights can highlight opportunities to lower non-feed costs through alternative feeding methods. 4. Assess economies of scale. Knowing yardage costs can help assess whether expanding the herd could lower costs per head. Overhead costs are often considered fixed because they don't change significantly with the size of the herd, up to a point. This means that increasing the herd size can spread these costs over more animals, reducing the per unit expense and improving cost efficiency. However, as the herd grows beyond the capacity of existing resources, additional expenses for equipment or labor may arise. Keeping track of yardage. Accurate yardage calculations start with diligent record keeping. Keep detailed records of cash expenses, such as utility bills, equipment maintenance costs, and labor hours. Many overhead costs are incurred at the whole farm level, making it necessary to allocate these costs across different enterprises and production stages to calculate yardage accurately. Overhead costs include machinery maintenance and repairs, building repairs, utilities, insurance, property taxes, and salaries. For farms with multiple enterprises, such as cash crops and cattle, allocating whole farm costs to the cow-calf winter feeding period can be complex but essential. Various methods can be used for this allocation. 1. Time-based allocation. For assets like machinery or facilities, costs can be divided based on the proportion of time these resources are used for winter feeding. 2. Revenue-based allocation. It can be difficult to track or estimate the use time of each fixed asset used on a diversified farm. In this case, costs can be divided based on the cow-calf enterprise's share of total farm revenue. For instance, if the cow-calf enterprise generates $40,000 in revenue and the crop enterprise generates $60,000, the total farm revenue is $100,000. The cow-calf enterprise's share is 40%, so 40% of overhead costs would be allocated to it. 3. Alternative methods. Costs can also be allocated using the percentage of gross margin or total expenses contributed by each enterprise. For example, if the cow-calf enterprise incurs 45% of the total farm expenses, 45% of the overhead costs would be allocated to it. Introducing the BCRC cow-calf Yardage Calculator. The Yardage Calculator is designed to help producers estimate their yardage by providing a clear template and streamlining the calculation process. For visual examples of how the calculator works, visit the article link in the show notes. The calculator requires data input on herd size, winter feeding days, whole farm cash overhead costs, and the values of machinery and buildings allocated to the cow-calf winter feeding period. This tool calculates the total yardage cost, including a breakdown of cash expenses and depreciation on machinery and buildings. In this calculator, non-feed variable costs, such as veterinarian services, medicine, and bedding, are treated separately from yardage. However, they can be entered in a supplementary section to calculate the combined total of yardage, bedding, and veterinary and medicine costs. While yardage is commonly expressed on a per head per day basis, when animal weights are entered, the calculator also provides results in cost per animal unit day. Production costs and feeding capacity can vary significantly with animal size. Yardage on a per animal unit day basis helps allocate overhead costs or shared resources based on cattle size or type. This approach is useful when calculating profits, as both costs and revenue can vary with cattle size and type. For example, a larger 1,500-pound cow may have a higher yardage cost but could also wean a heavier calf compared to a smaller 1,300-pound cow. Calculating yardage per animal unit day also provides a standardized measure for comparing costs across farms with different herd compositions or within the same farm as herd composition or cattle size shift over time. Bottom line, understanding yardage is vital for identifying inefficiencies, managing resources, and improving profitability. By tracking yardage, producers can better navigate challenges and create opportunities for growth.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can find all relevant links and information at beefresearch.ca or in the show notes. The Beef Cattle Research Council is funded by the Canadian Beef Cattle Checkoff and strives for excellence in the production of Canadian beef, cattle, and forage through research, innovation, and extension. Tune in every Tuesday as the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast delivers straightforward insights, expert information, and a wealth of practical knowledge for Canadian beef producers. Subscribe now.